Hey everyone, this is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology, and today I'm starting a new series on parenting tips for all 12 signs of the zodiac. I thought this would be fun. My qualifications, I guess, are that I'm an astrologer and a parent. And although my kids don't have every single placement in the zodiac, I've also been working with parents and looking at the charts of children for many years in my practice. And generally, one of the things that I like to do is give some very basic tips depending on some of the placements in a child's birth chart, including the sun, moon, or rising sign, or stelliums of planets in a particular sign. And over the years, I realized that I have some basic tips that might translate into a fun series. So we're going to start the series off by looking at 5 parenting tips for people who have kids with strong Aries placements. That could be a sun in Aries, a moon in Aries, Aries rising, a stellium of planets in Aries. If you experience your kid with a ton of Mars energy, this could be applicable, even just for a strong Mars placement in your chart. This is a new series that I'm doing alongside of a Planets in Profile on the Moon series that'll be starting in May. The next time the Moon is in Aries, I think it's around May 15th or 16th, we'll be launching that new series. So we thought, let's start in on a series that could give some of you out there some tips for working with your kids and being sensitive to their astrological placements. I want to make it clear that in doing this series, I'm not a parenting expert or guru at all. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I'm just a work in progress as a parent like everyone else, and learning as I go, taking tips from other parents constantly. So please, I also invite all of you who are watching to leave comments and reflections for us if you are the parent of a kid with a strong Mars or lots of Aries energy. We would love to hear your advice and your thoughts too. We can make this a kind of community support in the chat section where we all just pitch in and add our thoughts and feelings about, Aries kids. So let's get into it. Before we do, actually, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share some comments. It helps the channel to grow. Transcript of today's talk can be found on the website, nightlightastrology.com. So again, for today, and I should mention, we are now in enrollment mode for my new class. Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic begins again in June. That's my year 1 program. You can click on the courses page if you go to nightlightastrology.com. And if you scroll down, you go to the first year course to learn all about it. Of course, the second year program and the horary classes begin in June as well. If you're already a student, you might want to sign up for one of those advanced programs. You have to have taken the year 1 course first. And as you scroll down, you'll learn more about the program. If you have any questions about it, let us know. Early bird rate is in effect. If you miss the sale, that's still a pretty good savings, so check that out. But also, we do have need-based tuition, and those contracts are now open. So we have, at the very bottom of that page, you'll find the tuition assistance link. You click apply now, and you can apply to receive discounted tuition if you are on a tight budget and need some help to make astrological study a reality. So we always try to offer a certain amount of tuition contracts at a discounted rate for people who are hurting financially. So please do check that out. Take advantage of it if it might help you. We'd love to see you in the upcoming program. Okay, now let's get into it. So Aries kids, there's 5 parenting tips that I have for people who have sun, moon, kids with sun, moon in Aries, maybe Aries rising, strong Mars placement, a stellium of planets in Aries, something like that. The 5 parenting tips are gathered from my understanding of the sign and also what I have seen and talked with parents about over, 13 years of practice, but more specifically since we had our first daughter in 2015. So really since 2015, my practice has grown a lot more in the realm of parenting advice. And I've done a lot more charts since having kids for parents with kids. It's, just how it goes. So the number one thing, these are not necessarily in order, but this number one thing probably is the number one thing, and that is support individuation. You have to remember that for Aries, this cardinal sign of spring, that one of the life missions, and especially when it's sun or rising sign, a little bit different when it's the moon sign, but still the moon will have so much to do with our psychology and how we handle and process our environment and emotions and thoughts and feelings. The moon, the ascendant ruler, the ascendant ruler is placed in Aries, or the moon or even Mercury. Those planets in particular for ancient astrologers had a lot to do with temperament. But either way, um, Aries is a sign, a Mars-ruled sign, which is also the exaltation of the sun. And it is a sign that seeks to individuate. By individuate, I mean to become what I am. It's the myth of finding one's truest essence. It's the journey to become what we are capable of, what exists in potential, the hero's journey. This is the quintessential, this is the exaltation of the sun, right? So this sign has so much to do with asserting myself bravely in order to find and become what I am. And there's a sense of, I just got to be me, and so when you have kids that are Aries kids, a lot of what people will identify as behavioral issues. Now, of course, there are real behavioral issues that kids have. So um, I don't mean to suggest that, in this series, we're going to talk about some of the ways in which people might look at a kid with a certain astrological profile and think this or that is a problem, what actually might be just a part of their archetypal nature. But the kids also do have real problems that they need help with. So I don't want to suggest that you just write off real issues either. But one of the things that people will look at Aries kids and say, they are always they're always trying to assert themselves, or they tend to be very dominant or aggressive, or they tend to be a me first kind of person. And or they need to be the center of attention or something like that. Fire signs, in kids will get that label a lot, self-centered. And there might be some ways in which ego needs to be like gently curbed with our parenting, like help kids, not to take themselves so seriously that it becomes problematic, or think of themselves as more important than anyone and everything else. But the truth of the Aries placement is that Aries is on a quest to be itself, to individuate, and to feel a strong, healthy sense of selfhood. And so a lot of what Aries kids need is the support to say, I see you trying to be yourself and trying to feel strong and vital and potent. Like there's a potency in the sign of the ram that people have. If you're an Aries, you have to feel like you're embodying it. I'm strong, I'm vital, I'm vibrant, I'm like radiant. And there's that fiery, remember, exaltation of the sun in Aries. So that sense of needing to be a strong individual. I've got this, I'm capable. And a lot of what kids go through, the struggles they have with confidence, natural part of learning to individuate. The struggles that they have with ego, natural part of having to individuate. So you just know as a parent, if that's what my kid is going through, this is natural. And even if I can just take down my worry that what they're going through is unnatural, how much better will I parent if I can see, oh, this is part of an Aries process, So support individuation, see individuation in the midst of what might appear to you as a parent, like, some very fiery or assertive or even aggressive qualities. And I think you'll do, like you'll find that it's just easier to parent from that position. So that's number one, is support a kid's individuation, support that is a lifelong mission that the soul is on. Number two is support the healthy, I should maybe insert the word healthy, challenging of authority. Remember, again, this is the sign of Mars, a fire sign, and the exaltation of the sun. It was, the fire signs were called royal. And one thing that comes up with the Aries energy over time is the need to let the authority, the will, the power, the sovereignty be within myself. Now, that might mean that a person has to learn what it means to be sovereign, or to have inner authority cultivated that is kind and considerate and gentle and compassionate and empathetic, but still strong and authoritative. And that takes some time to figure out how to do. Along the way, it is very, very common for Aries kids, as they are figuring out what their own healthy inner authority looks like, to challenge yours or to challenge other people's. Or if anyone says, I'm better than you, I'm superior to you, I have more power or authority than you, to question that. Because there might be a sense of, Aries is not going to live under the boot or heel of someone else. especially if the authority is not wise and helping to elevate the inner sort of sovereignty of other people. The Aries person will find that individual to be a tyrant. So, you don't want to model um, like clashing your will with an Aries with a child's will. Like, not a great idea for Aries, because it's more like the rams bashing heads thing doesn't help the cultivation of that inner authority. So if you're having trouble with an Aries kid, and let's say their respect for your authority, one of the things that you can do, and I'm not saying this is a cure-all, it can be very complicated. One of the things you can do is empower that child with elements of their own authority within the house, places that are up to them somehow. That like give them a space to be like, that you're the captain of the ship in this area. I think that can be a really effective strategy. Also, getting kids involved in places where authority and submission to authority is modeled in a very, very healthy way. For example, a swim coach that is, really, really wonderful, vibrant, supportive, but also, works the kids and teaches them how to be disciplined in their swimming strokes or whatever. So like healthy coaches, healthy, encouraging role models, really, really important for Aries. Now, so if you have boys, for example, I find that Aries, like for sports or physical activity or martial arts, as long as there is a model of respect and that there's martial arts, right? So that there's a way of learning how to utilize that power and that will, but also learning the dance of like submission and power. It's very important. And it's uncomfortable for a lot of us. Like, well, it's funny how many times you'll see Aries kids born into water, like parents with water signs. It's because they're there to be your teacher as much as you're there to be theirs potentially. Or other interesting elemental combinations. But one of the things that you can do is you can help Aries kids by placing them into environments where there is a healthy authority figure, that even if they challenge, that there's a sense of humor and there's a directing and refining of their own power and authority through a healthy modeling of authority. Because the Aries, in order to develop and individuate, the Aries individual has to have brushes with authority and power to develop their own. It's actually healthy and natural. So you don't want them in classrooms with teachers who are bullies. You don't want them around any kind of tyrannical authority figures or structures, especially in your own home. You have to think to yourself, I have someone who has the warrior in them. How do I bring that out and bring that up in a way that is, really supportive? And that's not easy to do, especially because the combativeness and the tendency to challenge authority can feel like disrespectful. But if you think of it more like it's a skill that this little soul is learning how to evolve and develop, and that's their gift, then you become a steward of that gift. And when the child has an awareness that you're like, I see that power, that strength, that need to be your own authority. I see that, and I'm trying to help it in the way that I model authority and respect. I think that there's a natural sense that the Aries has of respect for like the sensei. There's got to be sort of like a sensei in the dojo. Could be mom, could be dad. It doesn't matter if it's masculine or feminine. It's just, how do we model submissiveness and assertiveness in the right balance? And finding people who can really model that for Aries kids is super important. Anyway, number 3 would be support, valor, and courage. One of the most amazing things about Aries individuals is, especially Aries kids, is you'll find that they're the ones who stick up for people at school. That Aries people have a really refined, it's like a knightly code. There's a sense of needing to be courageous, needing to stick up or defend things that are important. So Aries individuals can be, and fire in general, can be very principled. And so if you see your kids developing strong principles and the need or desire to fight on behalf of those things, we may see someone who's stubborn, dogmatic, and belligerent. You may see that because they get really stuck on a principle when it comes to their toys or their routines, and they want to fight on behalf of it. It's actually a great sign in many ways. So in so many ways, if we can learn to see Aries growing like this little blossom that's trying to come up, and we can just sort of sidestep the taking, don't take it personally. I think that's the hardest part as a parent, is that you're like, you little shit. So, and I think if we can not take it too personally and say, okay, you have principled things that you stand for, that you fight for, that you believe in, and there's valor and courage in that. Acknowledging that part will when there's a feeling for Aries kids of being honored, that nightly sense of you are honored, you are honorable. Oh man, you can guide, you can bring the bull to the water, so to speak, very easily. As long as there's an acknowledgement, hey, I see you being principled and being strong and being valiant and courageous. And so a lot of it, and I think it happens for a lot of the signs too, it boils down to acknowledging the archetypal essence of what's happening behind a behavior, and then just trying to shape it or reorient it slightly. Not that it's easy. I say these things like, well, just go do it. You're actually in the boiling cauldron of the moment, and you're just like, you're ready to boot kick your kid to the moon. All right, anyway, number 4 would be support risk taking and exploration. I can tell you this honestly, strong Mars people, the strong Aries people, they will need to do that traveling, trying on of different jobs, being an entrepreneur, marching to the beat of one's own drum as an Aries theme and a Mars theme in general. And as is risk taking and exploration. And if people say you ought to do this, again, there's that authority complex, and that doesn't really support individuation. There's a strong feeling that if it's not me that's doing it, if I don't really feel authentic in what I'm doing, then I'm not going to do it. That's a Mars theme. So as your kids are growing, first of all, it's amazing how many Mars kids or how many Aries kids will be averse initially to risk taking, to all of the things we're mentioning. For some kids, it can be the opposite of trying to develop them and being sort of, overpowering at times. Instead, it can be that there's a lot of fear and anxiety and hesitancy. Oh, I can't do these things. I'm afraid to do them. And then we need to encourage those things, because sometimes we're trying to become the things in our chart and we're afraid to. And other times we sort of have them in spades and we're learning to cultivate them. So we can kind of go in different directions, but support risk taking and exploration as long as it's healthy, and I guess not. You can't be perfectly safe in this world, and I don't think that that's a good idea either. But healthy risk taking, let's call it healthy exploration, and say, like if your kid is like, I want to go skydiving, yeah, that'd be incredible. Wow, that sounds amazing. I think sometimes, as parents, we'll hear kids starting to propose things that they want to do with their lives that scare us. And instead of saying, you go do that, we start, well, maybe you could do this thing that I feel like would be a little bit safer. And a lot of the time, it's not that kids will actually do the specific thing that they're thinking about doing, at 14 years old or something. But rather that the exercise of imagining what they are capable of, what risks they could take, that if you as a parent are not afraid of that, and you say, yeah, and especially if they're open to you talking about astrology, you could even just say, yeah, you've got a bunch of Aries energy in your chart, and it is really important for Aries people to take healthy risks. You can literally say that if your kids are into astrology at some point, which hopefully they will be. So just support risk-taking and exploration in general, because I think that, let your kid climb the tree. You know what I mean? There's some things that in particular Aries kids can't learn any other way, but like doing something risky, and sometimes like, skinning their knee. You know what I mean? Like that's just part of it. Aries kids are often the ones that have a broken bone or two, but before the end of high school, God forbid, but it's part of the Aries legend, to have found yourself through, trying to surpass limits, and finding out what limits are. I'm not invincible, but I sure am powerful. Like that's a lesson that Aries kids have to learn. And we kind of have to be open to that. I think for especially if you're like, if you have Aries kids, but you're like a Cancer mama or something, a Pisces mama, it's like, that's hard. So, or dad, whatever. Anyway, number 5 would be support social awareness. I put all of these in terms of support. Support these things rather than do this, don't do that. Support social awareness is one that may be tougher for Aries kids in general, which, because of the themes of individuation, challenging and of authority and developing of one's own inner authority, principled, valorous, courageous, risk-taking, explorative tendencies, there's a sense of like me versus the world, with Aries. And it's the versus thing that can be problematic, the power struggles, the competition, the need to win. And so we always want to support in Mars kids or Aries kids the sense that compromise, harmonization with other people, consideration of other people's will and intelligence, being someone, to use a sports analogy, it's like, one of the greatest things about Michael Jordan was that he was, not only was he he was a very Marsy guy, but a very, I'm the greatest, like a Muhammad Ali type of thing. But he also elevated the play of everyone around him. Everyone has always said that about him. He made all of his teammates better. So we want to at least develop a healthy sense of the reality of other people and the realization that whatever you accomplish personally is only as good as the relationships that you cultivate along the way, and an awareness of the people that have helped you get where you're going, that we remain in need of other people, and that we are dependent creatures as well as independent. That's a really important thing to foster, and just do so gently without exhausting that flame, which is still so important. So anyway, I thought this would be a fun exercise, and we're going to do this through the zodiac. So, we'll look at Taurus next. My kids are, Leo and Sagittarius. And so they're not, they don't have Aries placements. My wife has 3 planets in Aries, and we've talked a lot about what her experience was like as a kid. And that's had a big impact on how I've talked to people over the years about Aries placements. My daughter has Mars in her first house, my daughter Summer. And so I definitely have experience with her first house Mars. And I would say that it's very much like Aries, but at any rate. So yeah, tell us what you think. If you are the parent of some kids with strong Aries placements, would love to hear all of your insights. You guys have, this is just a treasure trove of wisdom in this community of people here. We have a lot of parents in the community, so I would love to hear from you guys as well, because I'm a neophyte here as a parent. I'm a relative newbie, and would love to hear all of your wisdom as well. Okay, well, that's it for today. I hope you guys are having a good one. We'll see you again tomorrow.